This is Talking Foreign Policy and Internationalist Perspective on Canada's Role Abroad, and I am Yves Engler. This week, the Globe and Mail, National Post, and other media have on their front page multiple stories about foreign interference and the foreign interference inquiry going on. According to these papers, China is a big threat to Canadian democracy and politics. They've devoted significant attention to the claims of people like Mehmet Toti from the Uyghur Rights Group and other U.S. funded or aligned Chinese-Canadian organizations. But they've devoted little attention to a letter that was signed by multiple dozens of academics, community activists, associations within the Chinese-Canadian community. And that letter says, quote, "Despite the innocuous title of the public inquiry into foreign interference, Canadians see the inquest spotlight aimed at the Chinese-Canadian community. Some in our community are concerned that the positioning of the government and all the political parties as attacks on our democratic right to participate in the electoral process and to vote for whomever we wish without raising suspicions of being influenced by a foreign power." So basically, members of the Chinese community complaining that this foreign interference inquiry is in fact targeting them. To discuss this matter and broader Canada-China relations, have on with us, lucky to have on with us, longtime Chinese-Canadian community activist here in Montreal, William Dere, who's involved in writing this letter. First of all, thanks for coming on Talking Foreign Policy. And could you just give us a little bit of a description about what this letter is and where it comes from?
Yes, thank you, Eve, for inviting me to talk with you today. Okay, we got the idea of this letter because we felt that the other side of the story has not been heard, that the other members of the Chinese-Canadian community have been, I guess, cowed by this so-called hearing or public inquiry, but so we felt that it's time that we made our voices heard, and that's why we put together this letter, this open letter, which we submitted to the PIFI, which is the Public Inquiry on Foreign Interference, and that's why it came about, and we got the support, like you said, of close to 70 individuals and organizations. And so we can see that there is another side of the Chinese-Canadian community that are fighting for democratic rights, of participating in elections openly, of voting for whomever we wish to vote for without accusations of foreign interference, and also to show that there's not one good political viewpoint that's acceptable for Canadian society. There are other political viewpoints that we want to put forward that should be acceptable to Canadian society.
And it's pretty stark to see. I mean, I saw there was a CTV article about the letter. I didn't see it anywhere else. But yet on the front page of the Globe, I mean, multiple days, the foreign interference inquiry, but Toti specifically from the Uyghur Rights Group and one of the people from one of the Hong Kong associations, they're on the front page of the Globe Mail, and they've been on the front page kind of like they get to rehash their claims like every 3 months, it seems like, on the front page of the paper as if it's a new story. So how's the media reaction been to your letter, and just a little bit more about, like, so basically what you're saying is that this public inquiry into foreign interference is in fact a marginalize the Chinese Canadian elements of the Chinese Canadian community who don't agree with getting, following Washington in getting tough on China. But yeah, media and then the kind of.
Yeah, I think what's behind it, at least in my own mind, is a lot deeper than the current geopolitics. But getting back to your original question, this open letter was sent to the media right across Canada from BC to Montreal, to Quebec, and so on. And the only media that paid attention to it was on CTV, or CTV Local, Montreal. And I was interviewed at least 3 times for the various programs. And so we did get a lot of attention on it from CTV in Montreal, but nothing, absolutely nothing from any other media right across Canada. And I have to say one thing is that there's a new model minority that's emerging, and that's been promoted by the media and the various politicians. And this model minority are the ones that get invited by the media and get invited by various government institutions and various hearings. And this model minority are the ones that have accepted, assimilated the liberal, Western liberal thought. And so they're the ones that have been promoted. Those of us like myself who have not accepted or assimilated into the Western liberal thought, we have our own independent viewpoints, and we see the world in a different light. We're the ones that have been silenced. And so that is why we felt we needed to make our voices heard. And that's why we try to distribute this open letter as broadly as possible.
And just before coming on, you said you were just listening to some of the inquiry. Can you give a bit more of your thoughts of what you heard either today or previous discussions coming out of that?
Okay, I didn't expect too much other than more bashing of the Chinese Canadian community, and historically, I tend to look at history. There was the so-called yellow peril psychology that drove the 1885 Royal Commission on Chinese immigration. And that did not end well for the Chinese. It resulted in the Chinese Exclusion Act passed 100 years ago. And now today, 100 years later, we have a second version of the yellow peril. And this is where we're also being targeted. And the aspect of xenophobia is so clearly obvious. It goes beyond the geopolitics. I think the whole psychology that Western civilization is trying to instill into the population is yellow peril 2.0. And the definition of yellow peril is the fear of the alleged power of Asiatic peoples, especially the Chinese, to threaten or endanger white civilization and Western white supremacy and Western civilization. And I think this is what we have today, and that's why it goes beyond geopolitics. It's actually preparing people psychologically to wage an all-out battle against China, including war. And this is what is so dangerous. And that's why we in the Chinese Canadian community need to speak out, because we want to maintain peace between Canadians and people in our ancestral homeland, because there is no need, there's no point, and there's absolutely no necessity to go to war against China.
But there clearly are very powerful forces within Canadian intelligence, within the Canadian military, within a segment of the corporate class. I think the corporate class is a bit divided. There's some who actually want to just do business with China, but there's clearly powerful forces, usually the ones most aligned with the U.S. empire, that do want to push for conflict. And we're seeing many examples of that, coming forward, moving forward. Obviously, there's recent stuff about banning TikTok in the U.S. that the Canadian government seems to be now considering. This stuff that doesn't get much attention, which is the whole military side of the Canadian naval vessels and spy planes that are stationed in Okinawa that are spying on China, and then I guess last month they came out that American special forces are going to be stationed permanently or semi-permanently, it's not exactly clear, on Kinmen Island, which is literally 10 kilometers from the Chinese mainland. It's part of Taiwan. So there's a lot of forces that are pushing us in this conflictual kind of direction. what do you make of all that, and how do you see the sort of geopolitics of Canada's role in all of that?
Well, Canada is a member of the Anglosphere Five Eyes network, and which is driven by the UK and the US, and Canada pretty much follows suit in the policies that are dictated by Five Eyes, and so this is where the danger lies, and I think Yves, you've done a lot about promoting a independent foreign policy by Canada, but this is not happening, as you know. And so we follow suit with the Five Eyes policies, and that's the danger, because hegemony, white hegemony, Western hegemony, and particularly U.S. hegemony, is under threat. They feel that they're endangered by what's happening with China, inside China, because China, after emerging from a century of humiliation, decided to challenge to define its own place in the global economic system. And ever since the failure of Western capitalism in 2008, when it was undergoing an acute crisis, China has emerged, and so the policy to contain China has taken place over the last 10, 15 years. And so we're at the point today where you have American troops who are training Taiwanese troops 10 kilometers from the Chinese border, and they do it with impunity. Billions of dollars of arms have been shipped to Taiwan. And so you can see that the Western powers, especially the US, is trying to prop up military confrontation of the Taiwanese against China. And the Canadian government, the Canadian military, is part of this with their warships, provoking China by sailing through the Taiwan Strait and sailing through the South China Sea and so on.
And the Canadian government's even signing military accords with the Philippines as part of this sort of the U.S. pushing more bases in the Philippines and developing conflictual relations with China, trying to kind of prod conflictual relations between Philippines and China. So it's actually pretty amazing to see how much of even as just a trade minister was in Vietnam, and they framed Canada deepening economic relations with Vietnam as part of decoupling from China. So it's like their whole vision of their, certainly with regards to anything to do with the Asia Pacific, this whole vision is that we have to keep China down. We have to divide countries in the region. We have to stoke tensions. So it's pretty clearly pretty intense.
I want to say, Yves, that I think they should do some studying of Vietnamese history, because Vietnam is a socialist country. Vietnam is governed by the Communist Party of Vietnam. Vietnam has fraternal relations with China, so they can do whatever they want in Vietnam, which is fine. It will help develop the Vietnamese economy, but Vietnam will not be ally with the U.S. Against China.
No, and I know Vietnamese officials are saying that, but it doesn't change the fact that the Canadian government sees that an effort on that front, and it all seems quite unnecessary if we can just learn to live as a collective humanity rather than these geopolitical games. But so thanks a lot for coming on, and for those who maybe want to connect with or reach out or support elements in the Chinese community that are pushing back against this sort of attack against Chinese Canadians' ability to engage politically, that the foreign interference inquiry is contributing to. Is there a website, or are there groups that people should try to connect in with?
Well, we don't have a website as such, but I think we're in the process of trying to develop something, because we need to get organized, and we need to get the Chinese community organized, firstly, so that we can appeal to other Canadians to come and support us.
Thanks a lot for coming on to Talking Foreign Policy.
Thank you.